to know. He's been an extraordinarily committed academic for very, very many years and has followed these developments above and beyond his capabilities as a knowledge producer. He has been active, he has been engaged in an assignment that we all came to salute him for. Professor Tahiru Jega was chairman of INEC and had the challenge of superintending how the political parties engage. And so he has to know a thing or two about the structure of the parties, the nature of internal democracy in those parties, and how these have come to impact the course that we travel as a people. After Professor Jega's presentation for the first 10 minutes, we have a panel that is as diverse, as inclusive as you can have. And that is a statement about the NCF, because we believe in pulling our strengths together across gender, across the country, in terms of regions, across dispositions of ideology, and so on and so forth. And so it's my pleasure to engage this subject, beginning with Professor Jega's presentation, and then we'll have, as we have listed, Dr. Lisa Bakoba, Dr. Muiz Banire, Mr. Femi Falano, and several of our heavy hitters who have lined up to go after this. So permit me not to waste more time, but to quickly invite Professor Jega, who I have seen on the panel already, to kindly, in the next 10 minutes, help us set a frame around this issue of internal democracy in political parties. Professor Tahiru Jega.
I don't know if Gali now by seeing. It's Gali now by.
Are we connecting to Professor Jega? Connecting to Professor Jega.
Hello. Hello, do we have Right Honorable Gali Manabai? Because we're looking at the program. Architect.
We may be having a little problem at the house being full, but what I'll do is, as soon as I can get in touch with Professor Jega, I will have to probably offload one or two people for them to be able to come in. In the interim, the moderator might wish to get another speaker. I can see the other speakers are waiting patiently while we try to sort out with Professor Jega.
Can you hear me now? I think I'm connected.
Okay.
Off his phone now.
I know that Dr. Banire is there, but
Professor Tahiru Jega is standing by.
Let's see.
Professor Tahiru Jega is already
is here.
Yes, he's here.
I saw him earlier.
Yes.
Can you
Alistair, yes, can we make more of an effort to get Professor Jega so that he can set the tone?
We can hear you.
Conversation.
Okay. thank you very much. I apologize for the challenge. In readiness for this presentation, I went where I thought the internet would be reliable, but then they took off light. So that's why I have these challenges. But now I'm fully back. And,
thank you very much. Welcome. We have to deal with that. That's part of why we are gathering, so we can solve those problems of light going and coming at its own pleasure.
Right. So thank you very much. Am I on?
Yes, you are on. Please go ahead.
We can't see you.
Okay.
Can you pin his video so that
we can hear you, but the video, can you put on your video?
My video is on.
His video is on.
Yeah, the host should pin his video. That way everybody can see him.
Can you see me?
No,
we can see you.
Professor Utomi, we don't need to see him because sometimes the quality of the presentation is poor. Let him go ahead without his video.
All right, let me just go ahead. The moderator and gentlemen, is it afternoon or evening to you all? I'm very glad with the opportunity to participate in this webinar on an important thematic issue with such an array of distinct panelists. I thank the organizers for this wonderful opportunity. The chosen theme for discussion today, which is crisis of internal party democracy, I believe very strongly is at the root of our convoluted political and electoral processes, as well as the bad governance that we are bedeviled with currently in this country. So I believe if we can get credible and truly functional people or political parties, a lot of our contemporary challenges in politics and in governance would be addressed. So I have very high expectations that the discussions today may give us ideas in terms of what needs to be done in order to improve upon the content of democracy within our political parties in this country. It's very that we have parties that are democratic, that are transparent, and that really function as political parties should do. I think, and I don't think I'm alone, that many of the that are parties are nothing but who specialize in what
Apologies. We hope Professor Jaga will be back.
Maybe in the interim, now that we have Right Honorable Galiu Manaba in the house, we could take his opening remarks that we are expected to take earlier. Now that we have Right Honorable Galiu Manaba in the house, maybe we could take his opening remarks. Hello.
This is
Hello. Hello, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Moderator.
I think they have technical problems. I doubt if anyone
Yes.
can
we take, sorry, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, while we try to resolve this, since we have Right Honorable Gali Manaba, former Speaker of Nigeria in the House, who is a co-chairman of NCFRONT, we could quickly take his opening remarks while we resolve the technical problem with Professor Atayu Jega's equipment. Right Honorable, please. Are you in the House?
Of course I am.
Gali Humanaba.
I am.
Okay, can we have you, sir? So that you take the opening remarks, sir.
Okay, thank you very much, veteran. Let me welcome everybody. I have seen a lot of familiar faces, including my sister Hajanaja. So many other people. I welcome you all. I want to welcome particularly our speaker of today, Professor Atahiru Jega, who is going to speak on internal democracy. Of course, this is a familiar field of his. I listened to him spoke on internal democracy many times. In fact, when I was in the House of Representatives, the House of Representatives used to collaborate with the Center of Democracy, or Center for Democracy of Bayero University, that is Mumbai House. He was the director then. We used to collaborate on very many issues pertaining to the politics of this country. I want to welcome him, and I'm sure he's going to give us what we deserve as a paper. It is a familiar terrain of his, and in many conversations, we used to discuss together the evils that the obliteration of internal democracy have brought to bear on our democracy. Internal democracy, as we are all aware, is a very pervasive phenomenon. And it is the obliteration of internal democracy that has largely been responsible for all the ills bedeviling our politics today. It is a sad commentary on our politics that our governance has taken away politics from the people and thus endangering internal democracy. Internal democracy is nothing more than how much members of particular political parties are allowed to deliberate or to participate in the affairs of the party, whether it is election to the executive committees of the parties, whether it is primary elections, and so on and so forth. So I believe that Professor Jega is going to entertain us today politically with his paper, and I welcome him, and I welcome everyone. Thank you very much. With these short remarks, I'm calling on Professor Jega to present his paper. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Gali Humanaba, former Speaker of Nigeria. Over to you now, Professor Atahiru Jega. We are keen to listen to you. Professor Jega, please. Do we have Professor?
Okay, well, Wally. If Professor Jega is still struggling,
hello, Mr. Moderator.
This is absolutely.
Hello. Sorry for this itch in transmission. Do we have Professor Ataru Jega in the house, please?
hello.
Professor Ataru Jega, please. Okay.
I think he still has challenges with his connection. So maybe we should get, the moderator can get the next speaker.
Is the moderator himself in the house?
Yes, we am here. I've been speaking.
Oh gosh, it's a very bad echo. Very bad.
I am deliberately off video to encourage many of us to go off video so that at least we can hear. We'll have enough bandwidth to manage. I would like to suggest that until we get Professor Atahiru Jega back on, we may move to another of the panelists. I saw Mr. Femi Falano earlier. Let me just confirm that he's still there. FF,
Mr. Falano,
are you there?
I'm very much here. Please.
He is.
Okay. All right. Let's take you.
Yeah. Can I go ahead?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. I'm delighted to be present in this all-important webinar. The topic of our discourse presupposes that we have political parties in Nigeria, and therefore we want to talk, we want to speak about the internal democracy.
I don't know how much water you for waka this year. I don't need to be
the internal democracy in those parties.
Can everyone please mute all phones, all devices? Alistair, can you mute everybody except Mr. Femi Falana at this point?
I learned that for 3 hours she was on my case. I was you know, I told you I was wait, now make I give you just Hannah. You know, I thought I was going for that Maya and Kai band. I didn't know that my. Oh, she saw you there. The red card came. And as soon as the red card came, my Officer became bit fidgety. So what the rest of you and say you want to go? No, me, I was still the vibrator. No, the woman was there and I said me. Oh, you were talking? I was talking, I was doing a training. You understand? I went there to represent Macon. So when I came to the time book.
Everybody mute themselves, for God's sake.
Because there's something going on.
Sorry, Alistair.
Oh.
I think we're okay now.
All right. Okay, continue.
Yeah, I was saying that the topic of our discourse presupposes that we have political parties in Nigeria, viable democratic political parties. Therefore, we want to discuss the internal procedure for choosing the those who will represent and those who will be presented for election by the Nigerian people. With profound respect, the present political parties are largely, not all, largely, and the ones we call the main political parties are largely vehicles, special vehicles for accessing political power in a raw form. The political parties that operate now, mainly the PDP and the APC, are, with profound respect to their members who are gathered here, are organizations that have total disregard for rule of law, for internal democracy. In fact, these parties subvert democracy. For instance, in choosing the representatives that will be presented to Nigerian people for elections, Section 87 of the Electoral Act provides for internal, undiluted internal democracy, either by direct or indirect primaries. But what we do know all the time is there are godfathers who manipulate the system with the connivance of officials of INEC who pretend to monitor the primaries to the extent that at the end of the day, you may be wasting your money, you may be wasting your time campaigning in primaries to be elected. On the day of the primaries, even where they are going to have the primaries, the results have already been written, and so the candidates are presented. Take it or leave it, that will be the candidate of the party. Now, this has led to relentless litigation by aggrieved individuals who feel betrayed, and most of the time, whose money has been collected. Happily, some of the politicians are here, and they can bear me out that sometimes you are meant to cough out over 20 million naira in some cases. And at the end of the day, there will be no primary at all, and your money will not be returned to you. There's no refund of the money. So it's also like a 419 system. It's worse. It is worse with local government elections, which we hardly talk about. In fact, it is so bad now that opposition political parties no longer waste their time and resources contesting local government election, because however the situation may be in any state, even where you have 2 senators from the opposition and 1 senator for the ruling party in a state, once the election, when the local government election is held, the ruling party will win all the chairmanship elections and all the councillorship elections in a way that democracy in Nigeria, internal democracy, has become a huge joke in the country. Now, what does the Constitution say about the management of political parties? Because unless you address the management, there is no way you can give what you do not have. Up to the Second Republic, political parties were run properly. Members contributed to the running of the political parties. Those who were in public offices, who were holding political positions, public offices, were made to contribute a percentage, usually 10% of their salaries and allowances, to the running of the party. And every member who has paid this subvention will be given a letter acknowledging your contribution. Today, the parties are funded by the government, particularly by state governors. Usually, they hardly use state fund directly. I mean, the government money. The parties are run on the basis of security votes given to governors. So you have a situation where the governor of a poor state receives 250 million naira a month. At the end of the year, that is 3 billion naira. In 4 years, that is 12 billion naira, without making money from any other source. that is enough in most of our states, a fraction of that. Will pay your way, will pay the way, will pay for the campaign of whoever is going to be made the governor. I mean, the governorship candidate by the governor. Now, once you have a situation whereby the resources of political parties are not monitored by INEC, INEC is too busy conducting elections every month of the year or all the time, either conducting general elections, by-elections, rerun elections, which only happen in Nigeria. That an electoral body conducts elections throughout the year. There is hardly any room for INEC to monitor and discharge its constitutional duty, well set out, and I think it's section 225 of the Constitution, that requires INEC to monitor the finances of parties, to demand from them annual return. Every political party is supposed to file annual return. Every political party is required by law, by the Constitution, to stipulate the sources of the fund. And furthermore,
please try and round up quickly.
Of every political party shall be listed. INEC shall conduct investigation into the funding of political parties, but none of these constitutional duties and responsibilities are carried out by INEC. So you now have a situation whereby political parties are free for all program. And what is the role of the judiciary in all this? The judiciary is not supposed to get involved in the management and running of political parties. But in Nigeria, what happens is that the courts, Nigerian courts and tribunals, have become the avenue for deciding who will be candidates in elections and who will be winners of elections. And that is what I recently described as tribunalization of democracy in Nigeria. So unless we begin the struggle for a new political culture, where political parties will be formed by people of like minds, ideologically, where they will defend the tenets of democracy, where the rule of law will reign supreme, and where there will be no rule of godfathers, unless we are ready to do that and start that process now, we are not going to move the country forward. In other words, we have an opportunity in the ongoing or the planned review of the Constitution to sit down, and I'm going to suggest that a committee be set up at the end of this program that will have the responsibility to study the existing political parties, so-called, look at the constitutional provisions for the running of the parties, look at the Electoral Act for promoting internal democracy, and then recommend sanctions, serious sanctions for political leaders that hijack political party structures and destroy the democratic process in Nigeria. Finally, let me also say
so much, FF.
that, yes, I'm rounding up. I'm just my last sentence. I also want to submit that we must begin to blacklist judges who take over the running of political parties in our country, contrary to the judgments of the Supreme Court, that the internal affairs of political parties shall not be inquired to by courts. You have a situation where, following the attempt to remove the chairman of the APC, Mr. Adams Oshiomhole, the APC member filed 8 cases where judges were giving conflicting orders. You cannot have internal democracy when you hand over the the task of choosing your leaders, when you abdicate the process of choosing leaders, where it is only the court that will determine the winners of elections. In other words, the return made by INEC, unlike when Jega was in charge, likely, the return made by INEC now has to be confirmed by the court or the tribunal, which for me is a mockery, which for me is a subversion of democracy. I thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Femi Falana, Senior Advocate of Nigeria. We appreciate that. When we come around on the second swing, I'm going to ask you for specific solutions because we don't want to be a talk shop. We want to go to action. We want to see a couple of laws drafted to go to National Assembly on this matter. We want to see a few lawsuits taken out against political parties for the violation of the fundamental human rights of its members who have fallen victim of this 419 by the political parties. We want to see action that can bring Nigeria back, institutions built up. But give some more thought to that for when we come back on the next round. I can see, let me just ask because I can't see everybody, is Dr. Zabakoba on? Is he there at this time?
Allies of the United States. Let me break it down to you.
And is anybody monitoring Professor Jega?
59% South Korea, key allies of the United States.
If not, can I go to Dr. Muiz Banire, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, who I saw a few minutes ago?
Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. I'm not sure whether you are hearing me.
I can hear you.
Thank you very much. I'll go quickly. I think that to a large extent, we try to be as much explicit as possible. Internal democracy, as you all know, has something to do with nomination process of political parties. That is how parties nominate their candidate for the purpose of general election. As rightly said by Mr. Falana, it's not only the Electoral Act and the Constitution that provide the legislative platform for this, but it's even incumbent on the various political parties to incorporate the mandatory process in their various constitutions. So as of today, there is no party without an internal democratic process in its constitution, none. So they are expected to comply with this in the nomination process. And there are two ways, according to the Electoral Act and even all the party constitution. Is either you do it by way of conducting a direct primaries or conducting an indirect primary. Of course, direct requires that all the members of the party participate in the process of the nomination. But where you are going through the Electoral College, we call it indirect. Now, the reality is what he has painted is that we hardly have such processes comply with at all in virtually all the political parties. He has mentioned one of the major factors militating against the realization of those objectives. One, godfatherism. That is known to everybody now that we have some individuals or some clique of people or a court-like people hijacking that process and imposing candidates on the political party. That's one. Two, of course, we also have a situation where people are deprived of the access through the astronomical fees that they ask for the expression of interest as well as nomination form. They put it behind quality candidates in most cases. That's another way to send them out of the race. And of course, also we have a situation where also those who hijack political parties who necessarily need not be godfather, but because they are in position of authority within the political process, also hijack the process. So those are the various ways that this happens. But again, of course, there is a process to challenge it. The process to challenge it is certainly let me let you know that the only people that can challenge the non-compliance in court must be people who actually participated in the primaries. So in most cases, what they do is that they exclude you right from screening. They will ensure that you don't even get to primary, so that once they exclude it at the screening level, you will not be able to approach the court in what the lawyers call local standard. You won't have the local standard to challenge that process in court. Because if it is challenged, of course, at the end of the day, if there is non-compliance with the process is specified by the law, then such candidate or such party will lose the nomination. And we have seen what happened in Rivers State, what happened in Zamfara State, and a host of other constituencies in the nation. Now, beyond that, of course, what this happens is that most times we discover that because we do not have so much enlightened and educated people in the system, that's why they also get away with it. We have largely illiterate people within the system, or hungry people, or political scavengers. So at the end of the day, whatever happens, once they direct them in any direction, they go. So there is that aspect of ignorance that also operates within that system. So these are the things that happen within the system. And at the end of the day, once the position of the law is quite clear that if you fail to comply with that process, of course, the implication is that you do not have a candidate as a political party. But like Mr. Falana rightly said, INEC is supposed to authenticate otherwise. But unfortunately, most times you find out that they fail in their responsibility. So people tend to get away with it. But where it is challenged successfully, the implication is that you lose your candidature. I think this, in summary, is what happens within the process as far as internal democracy. But by and large, it is hardly complied with by any political party in Nigeria. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Banire. I think it's good to have a mix of voice from civil society. I know that Ambassador Nkoyo Toyo is on the call. She's so if she's ready, maybe she can just quickly give a perspective. In the meanwhile, I hope that Alistair and co are still trying to reach Professor Tahiri Jega, who should kindly indicate as soon as he's back on so that we can continue with his keynote. But Ambassador Nkoyo.
Thank you, Professor. My intervention will be very, very brief because I have to leave for another meeting at 5. I'm so grateful and thankful to everyone who has put this together. I'm particularly grateful for the huge collaboration between the men and women in putting across a balanced perspective of what democracy means. I think democracy is about inclusion, it's about participation. Just to say that in addition to what we've heard our senior brother Femi Falana say about the state of the law and what SA and Banire has also alluded to, there are other concerns as well. The greater concern is that democracy is about the citizens. And when the parties take over the voice of the citizens and take over the structure and the way parties are run, I think we begin to see what I would describe as the democracy without participation. The unfortunate thing about democracy without participation is that it also leads to democracy without representation. The nature of internal management of parties in Nigeria has been such that we've been generally excluded. Men and women have been generally excluded. Quality of human beings have been normally also excluded. It's assumed a certain cultic nature. And because of that cultic nature, we're increasingly seeing a situation where, like I experienced when I first went into politics, somebody asked me, don't you know that this party belongs to somebody? You think you can sit out there in Abuja, do the things you are doing, and then come into the party and decide that you want to take any position you want inside the party. So there is that sense of proprietary ownership of the party. Unfortunately, that means the exclusion of many people. And in the case of the women, we are particularly being excluded in the way these things are perceived and looked at. And this is not to suggest by any stretch of imagination that men are not also being excluded, but I want to say that the exclusion of men and women is very different, and that wearing those two exclusions is an important part of this conversation. There cannot be a democracy that is only based on the voices of men. It cannot be that the parties that we have, who say they are the vehicle through which we get our leadership and representation, are also not conscious about that inclusion. Let me quickly therefore add that for me, internal democracy must start with citizens asking for accountability from the political parties, because if the parties do not present the kinds of candidates they want, then the citizens themselves cannot participate effectively. It's no surprise to us that we are seeing a decline in the number and interest and appetite for participation by voters. This is because their votes don't count, It's also because the parties don't give them the opportunities and options that they think would make the exercise itself exciting to them. So I am looking more at the quality of a democratic experience that we are having in our country, and saying that beyond the legal arguments and beyond the every 4 years change the law, revisit the law, what's the state of the law, what is INEC doing and what is everybody doing, is that we are seeing the shrinking of democracy, we're shrinking the quality of democracy, and that space has become increasingly impunitized by the nature of the political parties themselves and the way they carry out their political exercise. Let me stop by saying that going into the future, I hope that this reflection about how democracy is participatory and how it also leads to representation will be something we address. The decimal numbers of women that came out of the 2019 election is an embarrassment to us as a country, and it's an embarrassment to us as the biggest country in Africa. This should not be the case. Less than 5% of the representatives at the National Assembly are women, and I think we must work to make sure that this is changed. I think that one of the things we need to see within the political party, and I heard this from one of the webinars we did 2 weeks ago from Namibia and South Africa, is that we must return to the role of the wings. The political wings of parties must be re-engaged with, because these are the wings that put pressure on the parties to behave in a particular way. What you have now is a cult of people called the National Working Committee, who take over the party and make it their own private and proprietary rights, and decide in whatever way it suits them. So my recommendation, therefore, is that we need to democratize. One of the ways to democratize is the return of those wings that will now begin to represent important organs of citizens' inclusion in what political parties do. I'm very grateful for the opportunity to speak. I know I have jumped the line and the queue a bit, but I'm very grateful to the other panelists who have allowed me to do that. And thank you to Professor Pat, and thank you to everybody for this invitation and inclusion. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. That was a very, very appropriate articulation of the reality that we live. Actually, the naked truth is that our political parties have lost legitimacy. The people don't really believe they represent them. They believe that it's a cult, like you have said. And it creates a challenge for administration, because if people hold political authority through a process that is not considered legitimate, then it becomes more and more difficult for them to implement policies because the people don't accept them. So this is a challenge that we have to deal with. I will continue down this track. I know that we have Ajia Najatu Mohammed. Maybe we can take a quick perspective from her on how this perception of the state of our political parties affects governance, and we can then try again for Professor Tahiru Jega.
Ajia Najatu Mohammed, please. Ajia Najatu Mohammed.
Ajia is muted.
Can we unmute Ajia Najatu Mohammed?
She can unmute herself.
She has to go to the bottom left corner of her computer and unmute herself. Yeah. She should click on the mute button just next to start video. And the host can ask her to unmute too. So the host should send a message to her. Unmute.
Hello?
If she's unable to do that, we should take the next person in line.
Hello? Yes, hello, we can hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Okay, Ajia Najatu.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, please go ahead.
Yes, you know, I have summed everything up. I think both Jega and San Falamana has said it all. However, we can just narrow it down to 4 things. There are 4 pillars that I've always said that leads to the for people to usurp power in Nigeria. There's nothing like democracy in this country. When we begin to talk of democracy, it's as if it really even exists. It doesn't exist because thumbprinting has nothing to do with democracy. Democracy is fundamentally about choice, the right to choose, which is not there. So when you start off from the parties are personal properties of certain people. And then how do we even get the candidates? Like I said, there are 4 pillars to usurping power. The first pillar is INEC. INEC determines who gets what. And then you have the security apparatus. Could it be the police or the military? And the police have been known to urge thugs on while they are indulging in their thuggery to make sure that the person that is chosen by either the governor, the godfather, or the president, as the case may be, they are not the police are not there to serve the country, but are there fundamentally for 2 reasons. One is the person that is in charge of the state or the federation. Their allegiance is either to that person or to the money that they receive. So we have the INEC, which has a lot to be desired, and we have the police or the security apparatus, we have the money bags, and we have the courts to enforce these illegalities. This is what has been happening in this country. So what I'm trying to say is this: to get anything, there is nothing that anybody can do to change these things until and unless we have a government or people can stand up to say, we need to overhaul our security apparatus, because men are naturally rebellious. The only thing that changes the attitude of man is enforcement, retribution. If you know that you'll get away with everything and anything, then so be it. How many people have the scruples to do the right thing? Very, very insignificant few. So what I'm trying to say is this: we can go round and round and round and round, but it comes back to the same thing. That is the total breakdown of law and order. We hardly have policing in this country. This is the reality. We had elections. When we had the last elections, and that was why even the EU had to condemn the governorship elections and the American government. Why did they condemn? They condemned it because there was so much, not just rigging, but lots and lots of people were killed. Some were raped on election day at the ground, at the polling booths. And who was supposed to have been in charge then? The police. So if you have the police in the north, you have the soldiers in the south, especially in the south. There are places in this country that have never known elections. So when we even start to talk of internal democracy, there is nothing like democracy as far as I'm concerned in this country. And some printing, by the way, does not constitute democracy, because like the earlier speaker said, you don't choose who you want to even represent you. The governor chooses whom he wants. He chooses the senators. He chooses those in the House. He chooses, in fact, the state assemblies are his house helps. This is what is happening. And people cannot sit. There is no time in this country that you can vote somebody in and get him out. So unless and until we can even do that, we cannot talk of a democracy at all. And I want to also add that you see a lot of people that I asked when I go back to my constituency, I always ask, why do you receive money? They say, because when we even if we don't collect anything, we'll never see them until the next 4 years. So, and we might as well take what we can take. They can take the salt, they can take a kilo of rice. I mean, they have been pauperized by the same rogues that have superimposed themselves on them. So I think the bottom line is total overhaul of our security. That is the first thing that should be done. Because if we have a total overhaul of our security and their allegiance is not to the governor or to the president or to the senator, their allegiance is to the country and to God, then they will be able to check INEC, they will be able to check the Godfather, they will be able to check the courts. But unless we do that, we'll only be going in circles. This is my submission.
Thank you so very much for the clarity of your thoughts. And there is no question in my own mind that you are on the money on those comments. One of the issues I'd like to raise for subsequent speakers to pay some attention to is an issue that Professor Jega and I have discussed severally about this subject, which draws from the experience of other countries. South Korea, democracy going, people who had money were trying to buy votes and all of that. And they realized that perhaps one way to get the process to be about the people was to enforce a culture of debate. That if people were required who sought public office to debate in those constituencies, in the classrooms, on the streets, in television stations and all of that, after a while, those who can think through what to do with an office will exit the process. And it works in South Korea remarkably well. The best definition of democracy and modernity that I know of comes from Jürgen Habermas, who emphasizes the idea of rational public conversation. And what best brings rational public conversation to the fore is when you could get people to debate. But if you don't, then like my friend Moise Banire, one of his friends, sent his T-boy to the house. And that's what happens when you don't have internal democracy. If you're a party chieftain, you could just ask your T-boy to get ready to go and become a legislator. And he's elected without leaving his home. He didn't discuss anything with anybody, debate anybody, gets to the house, he doesn't know what they are doing in the house. So why don't you expect that when the boss calls and says, vote this way, he will not say yes, sir. Anyway, given that, I would like to see perhaps if we can, is Olisa Bakoba there? If he's not there, I'd like to take another voice of somebody who has been through the process, has been really played around and knows what it means when there is no internal democracy. I think she was probably one of the only female candidates from her part of the country when she ran in the last elections, Ms. Bilkisu Magoro. Madam Magoro, are you there?
Hello, I'm here. I'm here. Can you hear me? Good afternoon.
Could you share some of your experience with us?
Well, first, I would probably want to, discuss one of the other things. My experience was quite a lot. And I would say, yes, I was the only female candidate for the National Assembly. I went for the House of Rep that contested under the PDP and APC. I was just the only female candidate that was at the general elections. And of course, a lot of intrigues took place, especially with the issue of being a woman. And in most cases, as we've all been mentioned, there was no election that took place in most places. So the issue of tampering, I was said, is decisions were already made nights before. And we have cases where governors take over and put in their own people. We've had all that. And it's part of what was being experienced during the elections. I just want to say that, that I honestly don't think, as Haji Najat has said, that we don't really have a democracy. We're just claiming to have a democracy. One of the few reasons that I would say is that we have to look at ourselves as a nation to start with. Are we really working? Do we all believe as a nation, a nation called Nigeria? And are we working towards the same thing? And that goes to the political parties too. So if, we have political parties that do exist, why are these political parties formed, and what was the reason? Now, most of these political parties are being formed for personal reasons. And obviously, political parties are being handled by a certain group of people, as we've already mentioned. So we have to go back to the books and make sure that we know why, as a nation, why we actually even are in democracy, and what democracy actually means to all of us if we're in democracy. And this also leads to the issue of our constitution. Our constitution, if I must, say, it was done well for the people that did it at that time when they did it, and for that, situation of a country as it was at that time. I believe that we need to come back to the Constitution of Nigeria, as Nigerians, all of us that believe that in the one nation Nigeria, and believe that the country belongs to all of us, to sit around a table and actually look at the Constitution, formation of parties, voters, and elections, and see how we can actually restructure all the things that we have in there to fit our own needs as Nigerians and as civilians as it is. So these issues are one of the basic issues that would lead to us getting a better system in the future, especially with democracy. So when we come to things like, internal democracy, if parties within themselves cannot even put their heads together, it's just a certain group of people, how do you expect parties after winning elections the party can become inclusive? I'm talking about when it's not a party, you're not in a party, a certain party wins, but then they cannot look for other people that are competent within the country as itself to actually come in and be part of governance within the system itself. So we have to go back to the drawing boards. It's not an issue of, whether the parties are working or not parties. We have to know why we're actually in the democracy itself. And do we really want democracy? Is it working for us? We've talked about other, reasons about formation, as I mentioned, and then the inclusiveness of other people. Ambassador Nkoyo mentioned the issue of women, and then the inclusiveness of citizens. A lot of people are being sidelined in this democracy. We don't have up to 10 or 20% of Nigerians involved in the democracy of this nation. We need to be able to pull people all together and for people to have the belief that it would actually work. So we need to have the inclusiveness of especially women, who are the largest voters and largest people that come out to vote. And apart from that, we have to have other people with disability. We have a large number of them. They take over about 17% of a population. We have to get all these people involved. Everybody has to come in as a nation. And we must not think as a region. We have to think Nigeria first. I believe without Nigeria, none of us will be here. So we have to start rethinking the way we believe we should be. The issue of indigenship, I think, should be erased. We have to look into that, because that's exactly what is causing up most of these problems. When you start thinking, oh, this person is from here, this person is from there, and political parties will say, oh, the person from the north has to be the person that comes out in the next election as a president, or the person from the south to southeast. Let's look for the competent and best people we know that can actually do this job. And I think for now, I would stop where I am. And we should have more women in inclusion in politics, as it is now. In the whole of the National Assembly, both in the Senate and House of Rep, we don't have a single woman from northwest of Nigeria. And in the State House of Assembly, we just have one woman from Kaduna State in the State House of Assembly from the whole of the northern part, northwest of Nigeria. It has to change. We honestly have to look into this. We have competent people nationwide that can do these things, and we need to be able to be very inclusive, both within the party and even after elections. After elections, parties are a platform. We must, we must realize that parties are platforms that we actually believe that we can actually come in, go for elections, and on those platforms probably win the elections. But the moment you belong to a party does not mean that you're no more a Nigerian. Nigerians must be involved. Everybody must be involved in the governance of a country after elections. With that, I say thank you very much for inviting me to take part in this discussion. And I think there's a lot for us to do towards democracy, and we have a long way to go to. Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much. First of all, I must apologize because there are so many people who are waiting to be let in, including some of our speakers. And I'm not sure what the problem is with the system. We need some more inclusion. But to talk about inclusion from the presentation of Ms. Magoro, I think that it is disgraceful, completely disgraceful, the level of women representation in public life in Nigeria. In the last couple of days, I've been on more than one panel at the global level discussing this subject matter. That Rwanda can have an assembly in which about half of members are female, that they can have a cabinet in which a significant proportion that is female, and we have what we have in Nigeria is evidence, of course, that political parties do not reflect what the Nigerian people desire, given the numbers of women that are in our population. Clearly, the political parties are like Mr. Falano likes to say, special purpose vehicles. What is the difference between a political party and a military coup? Really, I'd like to understand what the difference is. Because a group of people who have used process to prevent the will of the Nigerian people from taking place. And we must start a process that changes this. We cannot pretend that what we have in Nigeria are either political parties or the process democratic. Everybody who has spoken has said precisely that. But we shouldn't stop at talk. The Nigerian people must say enough is enough. And they should be able to express this in ways that should come clear. We should turn to the international community and say that we want a list of anybody who is involved in political parties that block the will of the Nigerian people not to be allowed into those countries, their assets to be impounded, and that international criminal courts should be able to prosecute people who are involved in political parties that do not allow access to Nigerian people. Until we can do these kinds of things, our citizenship is eroded. And this is where we must stand as a people. I think bearing this in mind, we have to ask again, I hope Professor Jega is not one of those struggling to get back in who can get in. Is Professor Jega by any chance back in? Can I help out on this?
Hello.
Conversation. That's a Viper and a MI.
Part of what we have tried to do to reduce this pressure is that we have suggested that the strategy of the NCF is to function in clusters, to build clusters. As I speak to you here, if I turn the camera, you will see that I'm in a hall which is populated, and we're all watching from a screen that is here. That way we can get quite a number of people to be in one location, participate in this conversation, and within their own cluster, continue the conversation. I think that it is important that we get as many people participating as possible and not allow technology to limit us in the way that we seem to be getting limited. So let me turn to get a sense for the other speakers that are on. Which of the other panelists have I not been able to find who is on?
Can somebody hear me?
Please indicate.
Is Dogo in?
Huh?
Can somebody hear me? Good afternoon.
Is Dogo in?
Sorry?
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kingsley. I'm calling from Atlanta, Georgia.
Please, can you mute your microphone for now?
I am representing Omega Studio from Atlanta, Georgia.
Yeah, please, can you please mute your microphone for now? We'll get back to you. Please. Thank you very much.
We're going to get into Q&A not too long, and you'll get a chance to make, but we have several speakers that have not come up yet, and I suspect some of them are cut out by the technology. But if we may just move on at this point to a conversation and ask some questions of some of the speakers. I want to return to Mr. Femi Falana at this point to ask about the question I posed. Concrete action that can take place starting tomorrow to change things, because it won't change. I mean, 500 years ago, Niccolo Machiavelli said that nothing is more difficult to bring about than a new order of things. Because those who profit will do everything to prevent a new order from coming by. So if we assume that change will take place just because we are talking, we're joking, because these people don't want change to take place and they don't care whether it's a democracy or not a democracy. Democracy is an alibi for them to corner power. These are the apologetics of power. So what concrete actions can we start tomorrow? I have suggested that we should draft a number of laws or bills to pressure the National Assembly to begin to change things. If we have to call whatever action to suggest their displeasure at the structure and nature of things, and if we have lawsuits that we can take out against the parties, these are how institutions are built. We must begin tomorrow, not next week, not next month. So, Mr.
Number one, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Number one, we need to begin massive enlightenment programs, education programs. And I'm not talking to the elite. For instance, here, we're engaging in cross-fertilizing of ideas among the elite. We must go out there and devise programs to educate our people and let them be convinced that this country belongs to each and every one of us, and that there must be citizen participation and citizen engagement in political affairs. Number two, Professor Utomi mentioned Rwanda and talk of women participation. No, beyond that, and I beg you, we must go for the figures so that we can let people know how backward we are as a nation. We must tell Nigerians that women make up 62% of Rwanda's national legislature, and that in Rwanda today, Ethiopia and South Africa, the cabinet is 50% women and 50% men. So that when we throw these figures at Nigerians, which they can check on the internet, it mobilizes women to know that it is possible here. It forces men to know their domination may soon be over. We also must learn, we must also go to some Muslim countries in Africa, like Senegal, where people have shown that women's place is also in the parliament. just like it's in the kitchen, in the sitting room, and in the other room. We must let people know what is going on in Muslim countries so that nobody will say, oh, that is un-Islamic, that is against our culture, that's against the Christian ethos that says only a man can go to the altar. Thuggery. Now, before I go to thuggery, we must begin a campaign tomorrow that political party meetings shall not be held in the dead of the night. I once led the NCP and I insisted nobody shall meet in the night because it is practically difficult to get a nursing mother to abandon the home and go and mix with men in the dead of the night. Men deliberately, the ruling parties deliberately fix their meetings for 1 a.m. to 5 a.m. After the meeting, you now discover, oh, women are not here, so let's have a woman leader. You know, no. We must now change it with effect from tomorrow. There shall be no night meetings. Only coup plotters meet in the dead of the night. Thuggery. Women cannot stand thuggery. Men, decent men cannot stand thuggery. The Constitution has prohibited the use of thugs. Yet we all know in Edo State, in the election that is going on, in Ondo State, that is election that is upcoming. Why is it that the police in our country and other security agencies do not arrest and prosecute thugs? We only talk about thuggery. People have been killed. So we must run a country where criminality is sanctioned. A criminal suspect has been arrested. He's been granted amnesty. A governor is waiting for him. On the way to the governor's office, he's abducted on the highway.
Okay. I think that we can move from Mr. Falana's comments and the very important. I think Professor Jega has managed to come back in. Please confirm. Professor Jega.
Yes, he's in.
Yeah.
It's very
okay, thankfully. Thank God. Please, can you resume your commentary or your talk?
I will just be very brief. I apologize for all this.
Now you're clear and you look elegant.
Yes, I first of all apologize once again, and I commend the organizers for organizing this very important thematic discussion. And I feel delighted to be part of it, even though unfortunately I couldn't speak when I was scheduled to speak. I think that in Nigeria, we need to work very, very hard in order to bring about credible political parties that answer their names and that can organize, aggregate interest and articulate them based on principles and ideology. Presently in our country, regrettably, the so-called dominant parties that have dominated the political terrain and our governance process are merely parties in name. So I think that this discussion today is significant in terms of how we have to begin to find ways and the means of getting alternatives to these dominant parties that basically are organizations of cliques who strive on the basis of convenience to access power and to then personalize public resources. So to my mind, when you look at the history of the development of political parties in our country, it has not always been like this. Political parties primarily, globally, are seen as basically organizations that aggregate interests, that articulate these interests, and that also represent people on the basis of these interests. And they mobilize people to field candidates in the electoral process so that these people will advance the interests of the party and therefore the collective interests of their members under that platform. And obviously, for a political party to be able to be competent in the aggregation of interest and mobilization of citizens as voters, it must develop certain competencies. And the key competency required is in terms of recruiting people who are credible and who are competent to lead, whether in the representative assemblies or in the executive branches. And we have seen that during the First Republic, what are the primary interests of political parties? Representation is key, even though to some extent it was ethnic or regional based. But there was also the focus on anti-British or anti-colonial rule. And before independence, there are many political parties that really had a focus and that have aggregated interest on the basis of this. Regrettably, I think from the Second Republic around 1979 onwards, we began to see political parties emerging as marriages of convenience, primarily brought together by a few individuals who either have money or so-called godfathers, and who convert these political parties into self-serving platforms for either self-advancement or to access power and vandalize state resources. And by the time we came to this so-called Fourth Republic, it's very, very evident once you look at the major political parties that they are not political parties in the true sense of the word. So we have a lot of work to do. And in summary, I argue that in the Nigerian context, what we need to do is to ensure that good people either find an existing political party outside of the dominant parties and move into them and begin to develop and reform them, and therefore make them credible platforms of aggregating popular interests and putting people in the electoral field on the basis of this. The other alternative, of course, which many people have been agitating for, is to create a new political party entirely driven by good people, and I think the emphasis on good people creating credible platforms is really necessary because what we have done in this country is to allow bad people to have a field day, and in the end, unless good people really come into the political arena and join political parties and struggle with these parties in order to expand the political space and the democratic content of political parties, we will continue to have people who just muddle through the process. So really, I am a major advocate now that enlightened Nigerians, credible Nigerians, people really who are angry and dissatisfied with the way the dominant parties have managed the affairs of our country can no longer afford to sit on the fence to watch how our resources are vandalized and how our country is really being destroyed. So we have an obligation to become actively engaged in partisan politics, and the more we can have people who have the same values and beliefs and orientations getting on one platform and striving together to reform and develop a credible political platform, the better, I think, for our country. So very few people should have the luxury of just being armchair critics or analysts. What we need are activists, people who can pull their trousers and join the muddy terrain, but with the clear objective of wanting to clear the mud and creating a cleaner political environment for the development of this country. We just have to keep engaged on these issues, and the young men and the women in particular, because that's part of the problem we have in this country. Of course, there are many challenges which bedevil the aspirations of our young men and women. And because of these challenges, many of them are literally withdrawing from the public sphere, you know, and it's very, very important that we motivate our young people to really become very, very actively involved, not necessarily just in the civil society organizations, but actually in the political terrain. And they have to get in there with the sole objective of bringing about change and reforming political parties from within. Without internal democratic content, our politics will continue to be polluted, dominated by so-called godfathers and money bags, you know, and the people who really can do anything to win an election or to install lackeys into the governance process. So really, I think it's very, very important that we find ways and the means of interesting our young men and women and really encouraging them, you know, so long as we want our country to develop on the framework of liberal democracy, so long as we are not going to have young men like the Che Guevaras who will take arms and bring a revolution like they did in Cuba or in China or in Russia or in other places, then we have to reform political parties and use them as credible alternatives. I think this is necessary for us, and we need to pursue these objectives. I thank you for your patience.
Thank you.
I apologize for the challenges.
Thank you so very much. Thank you. Such a pleasant thing to hear. If I just remind, you have told us the essentials of what a political party is. It's about interest aggregation and socialization of people into a worldview, and then using that to serve society. And contesting worldviews can then go head to head, and the people choose a particular worldview with certain quality of people. One of the things that I think is so important for us to engage with is a couple of myths that politicians have bred in Nigeria. One myth is that, oh, you know, this is politics. Anything, if it's politics, it's an explanation that you don't need to have character. You know, to lie, to cheat is politics. It's not a problem, it's just politics. And we know that the history of Western political thought is really a story of morality in service to the public. That is what it is consistently. That's why Montesquieu talks about public virtue. That's why our own colleague Peter Eke writes about morality in the two publics and all of that. But people tell you in Nigeria, oh no, you see, unless you respect the Adedibu law, if you cannot kill another person, if you cannot pull your shirt and fight in the marketplace, if you cannot take the Quran or the Bible and swear knowing that you are actually lying, then you are not ready for politics. I mean, how do we educate people that that is the very opposite of what a politician should be? Because this is the tragedy of the Nigerian context today, that these have become what have shaped the mindsets of people about what politics is. And so we have the complicit middle, the educated people you're talking about, the middle class people who hide in their bedrooms because they think it's dirty and inadvertently support the current order in which there is really no democracy.
Yeah, obviously, unfortunately, our
unmute. Please unmute yourself.
No, he's speaking. He's on.
He's speaking.
Yeah, can you hear me? Yes.
Yeah, we can hear you.
I think
I wanted to talk. Leah Solomon wanted to talk.
Okay, go
Leah
ahead.
Solomon wanted to talk. Can I talk, sir? Hello, sir. Sir. Hello?
Sorry, Prof is on the floor.
Almost like a coup d'etat. Almost like a coup d'etat. But Professor Jaga said you should talk, so go ahead and talk.
Okay, I'm grateful, sir. First and foremost, I'm Leah Olusi Solomon. I'm sorry I came in late and I tapped more.
Technology has caught you.
Mr. Moderator, we need to allow the panelists first. Please.
Yes. Okay, we'll get back to her later. I want if Professor Jega can respond, then I'll go to Dr. Olisa Bakoba after that.
My problem is, sir. Hello,
Please,
sir.
Please.
My problem.
Wait, madam. Please, you have to wait.
Leah, let her come after
you.
Yeah.
Can you please allow the panelists to finish first?
First.
I think, Professor Otomi, you have raised a very pertinent issue. Unfortunately, the value system has been distorted, and I think a lot of it happened during the so-called politics of transition under military rule, in which basically the military were very, very interested in terms of those who would replace them. And also many of the people who became actively involved in politics during that period were what we can call, to be honest, in my view, what I used to refer to as militicians. People who have made their money, who have made their career under military rule, who have imbibed the authoritarian values of military rule, and who then populated and dominated the political terrain, therefore distorting the true values of democracy and also of governance in that context. So obviously with this distortion of the value system, it is now a Herculean challenge to first of all try to get people to change that mindset, which really has literally been indoctrinated into many people during that action, you know. And what is worse is that many of our young men and women also have grown literally under this kind of culture, authoritarian culture and disposition, where the role models are people who have made their monies illegitimately and who use power, who vandalize state resources. So it's a Herculean task to try to change that value system. But it is also a responsibility we have, that we have to really dedicate energy and effort in order to begin to change that mindset. And obviously, a lot of effort in conscientization and education can help in that regard. But it is no easy task. But precisely because it is not easy and it's a challenge, that's why we have to give it our best.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. I will still come through before we close, but let me invite in Dr. Olisa Bakoba. Olisa, I hear you finally got in.
Yes, he's here with us.
Okay. Let him take the space. So we yield to the senior advocate.
Oh, hey, please. Oh, hey.
Okay, they are muting him.
Can we have OA?
By the way, Wale, has Dr. Dogo managed to get in?
I should think so.
Okay. Probably technology is battling with or something.
OA.
Lisa.
Is here under the name OA. Is here with us.
If we're still having difficulty, maybe we can begin to take some questions now. The lady who was trying to speak earlier, we can take her intervention while we try to get in Dr. Dogo and Abakoba.
Concrete proposals. We have 5 people wanting to talk.
There are 5 people who have indicated. All right, let's take the first one. Name that first person to come up and very brief. 45 seconds.
Yeah, can you hear me? Can you hear me? This is Kate.
Go on, talk.
I'm from Atlanta.
Okay, great.
Okay, I'm from Atlanta. Speak.
Okay,
45 seconds, please.
Thank you for taking my call. Thank you, first of all, for organizing this. I really want to chip in because I had a lot of speakers talk about allowing one of the problems that we're having is because women have not been participating actively in politics in Nigeria. Permit me to say that I personally disagree with that. That is not the problem that we're having in Nigeria as a country, because you see that we talk about tribe, we talk about religion. Now, some people want to distract this topic by talking about women not being active participation.
No.
That's not true. So let's not divert the attention of this forum. We don't want to relegate the women into the background. That's not what I'm preaching either. But let us have a balanced view to where we'll get to solving our problem, which has been government that has been in section all these years, but is not doing something right, or is it followers that are not doing something right? The problem we're having is not about women. I just want to say that. Thank you.
Yeah, okay, thank you very much. There are going to be many different perspectives. There are like 15 people here with me. They all disagree with you.
I also have a comment.
One says he agrees with you, but the rest of them disagree with you. Anyway, okay. Yes, Madam Grace, you're looking elegant in Washington.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
I have a comment.
Please introduce yourself.
Please go ahead.
Introduction.
Do I have the floor?
Yes, you have the floor.
All right. My name is Grace Egbagbe, and I logged in from Washington. I would like to make. I totally agree with what Professor Jiga said, and I'm not surprised because he's somebody that I admired since he was in INEC, because he controlled that department very creditably. Now, you are saying that we should all join together and make a change. I want to ask you 2 questions. Based on what Haja said, and Haja was very frank and very truthful and fearlessly said where we lack discipline in the country. The police force, the security agency don't help when they're supposed to help and protect the citizens. Would you expect your daughter or your son to go out there to try and make this change when he or she is not guaranteed protection by the security agents? That is one question. The other one is what, the other comment I would like to make is what Dr. Magoro also spoke about. Women are marginalized. Forget the last speaker who just spoke. I don't want to comment on what he said. But listen to what Dr. Magoro said. Women are marginalized, not because they are not competent, but perhaps because they are very competent and the others are afraid. And I'm not going to say only the men are afraid. They're afraid that when you put the right women there, and that is the key word, the right women. If you put the right women there, there's definitely going to be a change. When you think about how much women manage a home and what they do, you will know that women can manage and do things right. As for the SAN Falana, you know, that's my hero right there, because he says it as it is, and he's very frank and brutally so. So my question relates to what you had asked, Professor Pat. What are we going to do today? All these seminars and webinars have been done many times in the past, but nothing happens. We go back, we sit back, and what do? We do nothing, because we cannot do much unless every other person is enabled and every other person helps us. Politics in Nigeria is money. What we are trying to do, for instance, I belong to the League of Women Voters of Nigeria, and I tell you the only reason I joined that league is because we want to stop women who will stand in line in the hot sun for 200 naira, only 200 naira, to be given 200 naira to stand in line to vote for a candidate that they probably don't even know anything about. Once we empower women and we change the voting power of women, or even the men, everybody, you will see that things will change. And I'm hoping that this change will come very soon, because I want to be alive to see the change in Nigeria. Because right now, I am so I'm almost giving up. Thank you very much.
Thank you very, very much indeed. We'll take the next one very quickly. Next question, comment. Is only science in place? While we're taking the next question.
Dr. Dogo is in the house.
And Leah also is in the house.
Dr. Dogo is there?
Leah.
Okay. All right, Madam, let's take you quickly and then go to Dr. Dogo.
Well, I'm Leah Solmo Lucy. I reside in Taraba State. I really appreciate all you have said, but in a summary form, let's face reality. One, thank God Professor Jega highlighted on the issue of formation of new parties. I want to briefly tell you that I understand the concept politics as Aristotle formed that is a joy, a thing of joy. If we can establish something that we will enjoy it and to step it into the grassroots, information of the structure right away from the local unit, men dominates without co-opting women or allow women to be executive in the local unit, up to the world, state, and the national body. How will women have opportunity to be involved? Secondly, we are sincerely talking about transparency and honesty. And I believe we belong to one God that created us to be honest in whatever we are doing. If we are talking of credible people, the mindset of myself and you is to be sincere on whatever we are doing, both Muslim and Christian. I sincerely want to believe that those that were trying to say that they are corruptible people, who motivated them to be there? We are the people. Changing from this party to another party, which is uncalled for. If only you can come and contest or you want to vie for any elective position, we have to sensitize. You have to tell us, let the massful people gather, tell us what you have done in your local area first before coming to state or to local government up to national level. If we can follow that cue, I think some of the issues we are talking, I believe we begin to see some of them. And we talk of godfatherism. Well, I thank God I'm an activist. I have my NGO and I'm a partaker of women in terrible state. I was demoralized because I contested and I know how men gathered on me, but I stood firm. I told them this is all for us. If a woman is trying to speak out, men will begin to name her. I would begin to rally around to motivate some of the women to rise against them, but we fought it. But specifically men, I'm saying this because what is happening, what will be happening in Ido, who are the partakers? These men are the partakers. So men, caution yourself, let the mindset of you, what are we going to do in Ido State and Ikiti? These are not issues of politics we're talking of, holistical movement and transparency, and men should begin to reason that not devilish things that we should invite to attack or to get the highest vote. It's not of that. So men, I'm talking particularly without fear. I know some of you begin to say, why this woman say men, men, men? Because whatever does from the scripture fulfillment, man is the head, then the woman follows. But we're trying to say that let men be sincere. Let them know that there is end in any leadership they are going to do. This is my own little with a smile I have. Thank you for giving me a listening ear.
Can another woman speak, please?
Madam, I think that we are hitting a very important point here. Unlike our friend in Atlanta was saying, women are genuinely aggrieved by this system.
Absolutely.
Somebody here says for no reason, I disagree with him completely. Men have a right, a reason to be aggrieved. Just
I don't know where he is in Atlanta.
You cannot shut out 50% of your population and expect to.
Pat, will lose your voice.
May I speak, please?
Pat, you're on mute.
I think Professor Pat is on mute.
Oh dear.
And Professor Pat, Jock Badeli, call Professor Pat to unmute himself.
Okay,
Jock
while
Badeli.
that is on.
Hello, can I say something, please?
Hold on. Because, no, please, can we go to Mr. Hello, please.
Can I make a contribution?
If you have to say something, just raise your hand so we can pick you. Mr. Daly Ajufo.
Muted. Somebody else talking.
So
Yes.
please, if you want to say something, raise your hand so that we are ordered.
I have raised.
Okay,
I have
sorry.
raised,
I think we had a mix-up.
May I talk now?
Okay, all right, Mr. Jufo, please go ahead. I'll take you now.
Yes, yes. We have everybody who has spoken well. We all have identified the problems, but nobody has preferred solutions to our problems. I have some items listed here. Like we said, we don't have political parties. I don't think we have political parties. Pat, you're a victim of political shenanigan. Let me not be let me not be personal. You are a victim of political shenanigan. That tells you that we don't have political parties. We have a group of gangsters who control a body called political parties. Two things I'd like to suggest. E-voting, electronic voting will solve some of our problems. Independent candidacy will probably help a little, and making governance less financially rewarding to the rascals who represent us today. Let me limit it to these three aspects. If you make representative less financially rewarding, many people who are in the parliament today will not participate. I can show you. They go there for the money. One of them displayed arrogance of wealth, 200 watches on television lately. I think it's madness. Before then, what would be? So if we can adopt this, if a political party denies you opportunity of contesting, go as an independent candidate and test your popularity with the electorate. And not only that, let it be an electronic voting, such that when we vote, our votes will count. As of today, I do not believe that our votes count. I'll limit my time there because I know quite a number of people who would like to talk.
But thank you very much for being very brief and straight to the point, with some very valid points made. Talking about electoral process reform. We continue this series on Friday at 5 p.m. with Nigeria Youth Arise. It's a similar town hall meeting driven by young Nigerians. And one of the Nigerians who will speak at that event is a guy called Christian Elemele from Restore Nigeria. He's going to be speaking from London. And they have an electronic voting initiative that they are pushing. They've been working very hard at it. But we'll hear young Nigerians across the board, because what we are trying to do in NCF is make our shoulders available for the next generation to stand on so they can see tomorrow more clearly. They are really the ones who are going to be running things, but we want to open the doors so they can step in and move things forward. So we can all tune in on Friday at 5 p.m. and listen to the young ones who will take this baton and run. So that's one very important note. About things to do. The NBA chairman, I don't know if it's one of those still shut out, who's supposed to speak to us here. And part of the deal we're trying to make with the NBA is that they must give us sets of lawyers. We must prosecute these people. We must try to change laws, and we must start now. We must go after these things until we change. No system has changed of its own. It's changed only when people commit, as Professor Jaga was saying, to Herculean task, so that history will remember what they did for the next generation. It's not about you and I anymore, because we are almost gone. But should the next generation continue in this nonsense that we're going through, I think if they do, then our time of being will have been a tragic time. So, is Olisa Bakoba now able to speak?
Maybe we should pick Ishao Dogo first, if he's here.
Okay, let's take Dr. Dogo. Dr. Dogo. A challenge of technology.
Anyway, we still have some hands.
Can I please make a contribution?
I think we have to allow our sister to make her own contribution.
Okay, let's take, somebody wants to make a comment before we're still struggling.
Okay.
Please take on the lady. Yes, okay.
Oh,
Thank you. My name is Toyin Tokuta. I'm speaking from the US. The issue is
Americans on this, eh?
Well, we're all stranded here. Some of us are stranded here. My issue is actually with INEC. I don't believe that we can have a successful election in Nigeria if INEC is not truly independent. What can we do as a movement? Or can Professor Jaga please throw a bit of light on this? What can we do to make sure that INEC is independent? Because as long as INEC is not independent, we cannot have a successful election in Nigeria. Thank you.
You have done well. I love that. Everything lies in their hands.
Very important, very valid point.
Yeah. INEC are the we need to ask the INEC, what are their responsibilities? Thank God Jega is around. Let him
Okay, madam. Let's take somebody else.
Hello, can you hear me?
May I speak, please?
Okay.
Hello, may I speak, please?
I mean, go on.
Yes, okay. Thank you.
All right, speak, ma'am.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Somebody was asking for solutions. Well, from my own perspective, from where I come from, I think we have some solutions. And some of it is that I'm hoping that some of our colleagues from the South will be able to help us in this. When it comes to North, people always say that there's religion and there's culture, and that's why women don't participate. Well, I have a master's degree in both English and Islamic law, and I did my thesis on CEDAW and Article 16.1 of and the Nigerian and the Muslim woman. And I have seen it through my studies that there's no religion or no culture that deprives women from getting into politics or participating in policy making. We have the Queen Daurama in the ancient times. We have Amina of Zaria. We have Aisha radiallahu anha, the wife of the Prophet. We have Salama, the wife of the Prophet. We have Fatima, the daughter of the Prophet. And in recent times, we've had Benazir Bhutto from Pakistan and Sheikha Hasina from Bangladesh. I mean, look at the women and how they have worked hard and made their countries better with COVID. They are the only ones that have really succeeded in their countries. So there's no reason why women should not be allowed. And I think this is part of the things that we should look at to make women participate. And how can they participate if there are only women leaders in the party? We need to restructure the parties to make women have even more say in the parties. We just can't be women leaders all the time. And about marginalization, yes, there's marginalization. I succeeded in the primaries in the last election under PDP, but I was told that there has been an automatic ticket allocated to somebody who doesn't have as much qualification as I have, even though I was actually called and written a letter by my local government to come and contest, just to show you that even in Kanu, when they are tired, they really are tired. For them to have called a woman at that time to say, okay, come and take over from this man, you know they are tired. So the problem really is that I think INEC should be unbundled. You know, our votes really don't count when it comes to INEC, because if the votes counted, I wouldn't have lost going into that election. So I think this is one of the things that I want to say.
Well, thank you very much. I think that it's good that all these voices are being raised. I would suggest, and I hope all of you have registered on the NCF platform, because you can then begin to organize all around the country. At this point in time, it doesn't matter what, if you believe in some basic ideals, what our general conversations in the NCF, we have put out there what our purpose is, what our values are, and we look to organize only people of those values. And we are hoping that, like Professor Jega said, we can aggregate interests, because production and development is key to our well-being. Our focus is, can we generate a producing coalition that brings together those who farm, the artisans, the entrepreneurial, emerging small businesses, and the intelligentsia that can help organize their thoughts to offer a new social order for Nigeria. Anybody who shares in this and registers on the NCF platform can be part of building something that will be driven by the interests that they have. So let's move forward with that. Hi, Chief Peter Ame. Okay, let's hear your perspective.
Yeah, good evening, sir. Good evening, everyone. There's one issue that we keep on, people talk about independent candidacies. I've been in political management for some time now. Multi-party democracy has given a lot of opportunity. As long as you know you have no capacity to go to a smaller party and mobilize and win, you also will not have capacity if you become an independent candidate. You do not have resources and capacity to run the election. So the fact is that in Section 153 of the 1999 Constitution, INEC is listed as federal executive body. They belong to the executive level of this government. So if that section must be amended to take INEC from Section 153. To make INEC truly independent, INEC must be removed from being an federal executive body. And three, why it's important for INEC to be unbundled is that even Professor Jega knows that sitting in INEC commission, you have to take in charge of regulation and management of political parties. You have to be in charge of the nation of constituency. You have to be in charge of over 2,000 cases that INEC will have both for pre, post, and during election. He has to be in charge of management of political parties.
Voters registration.
Voter registration. INEC should be unbundled, and that's why we're asking that Section 155, Section 157 of the Constitution should be amended to provide that the chairman of and members of the board of INEC can only be removed by the Senate on the recommendation of the National Judicial Council by 2/3 majority of the Senate, which shall include at least 10 members of the minority party to give input, so that always the sitting government does not control who runs INEC. And two, we must be able to say that INEC, appointment of INEC should not come from the executive. It should come through the recommendation from the National Judicial Council to the Senate. And the Senate
the
will now
INEC
recommend.
officers
And
are
the process of
responsible.
removal
They
of
are
appointment of
responsible
members.
that in totality, they are the people.
Madam, please, can I just quickly finish?
Madam Leah, please hold on.
Madam, I'm rushing so that my time will be enough for me. So if INEC must be on board to have political party registration and management commission, INEC we must have independent electoral commission, which will be responsible for the conduct of election alone. Then we will have electoral tribunal and related offenses commission, as proposed by the Waste panel. That recommendation till today have not been put in force. Sir, if we must have a free and fair election, sir, the fact is very clear. Without INEC involvement, a free and fair election would be elusive in Nigeria. And when I look at people who are proposing electronic voting, I smile and I laugh. Let them mention one country in the world where electronic voting is loose. One country. I don't challenge them. One country.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much. Do we have a Dr. Dogo on right now? Because I'm going to be closing this webinar in the next few minutes. I'm going to come back through to the speakers for 1 minute summary and close. If we did not manage to get Doctors Bakoba and Dogo back on, we'll have to keep their powders, their gun dry until the next round of town hall meetings, because we'll be having continuous town hall meetings. But very clearly, what's important is that we resolve to do a number of things and practically go out there and do it in the public interest.
Absolutely.
After every town hall meeting.
It will not be corrupted.
So, any of them ready? If not, then, sorry?
1 minute, please.
Dr. Tanko.
Yes, Prof.
Introduction.
Can I speak, Prof?
All right.
Okay, I just wanted to add one issue. I'm sure, my name is Dr. Yunus Tanko, the NCF spokesperson. Prof, the National Assembly is working on various documents planning to work. I don't know whether they started or not. And it's my humble opinion that we submit a memorandum to the National Assembly so that all of these issues that have been raised can be tabled, and then we present it to defend it at the National Assembly, because otherwise all of this will have been an exercise in futility. And so a team of lawyers under the NCF front, led by your humble self and the co-chairman, Omar Gadina Abba, should visit the National Assembly to articulate these positions that already been posited by a lot of people, so that it can be taken on holistically. I've been proposing that INEC should have a conference with all the political parties and stakeholders, so that we will have a document that is agreeable by all, so that we can move our democracy forward. Because if we don't do that, we'll be shooting ourselves on the foot. That's just what I wanted to add.
Thank you. I know that there are a number of perspectives on that, but I agree with you. We have, by the way, part of how we've tried to organize ourselves in the NCF is that we've put together an elders forum. That elders forum includes a lot of distinguished Nigerians in their 80s and 90s. Amongst them, they are actually developing their view of what should be constitutional reforms that have to take place in Nigeria. These elders are planning to go and submit that after a conversation with us to the National Assembly, but that's one track. There is also the view of some people who are active friends of ours in Northern Elders Forum. I had an interesting conversation a few days ago with Dr. Hakim Baba Ahmed, and he has sent me the summary of their own discussions. They were critical of the National Assembly process because they thought Nigeria needed a comprehensive review, but that we have had backs and forths, and that money gets voted and gets wasted by politicians in the name of another conference. In many ways, I think that there is truth to the points that they make. Really, truly, all we need to do is get the document from the Obasanjo conference, which Bishop Kuka was secretary of, get the document from the Jonathan conference, and get some serious-minded people to sit together, synthesize them, and provide a set of reforms, or constitutional reforms to the National Assembly. But having said that, to fulfill all righteousness, we must, and part of the think tank that we are building up in the NCF, the work will be to take these documents, synthesize them, put them to the NCF forum, and we give our input, and these are articulated documents will go to the National Assembly, because if they want to chop the money and organizing a conference, we can't stop them anyway. So might as well just give them some document that they will have as input. But I sympathize with the position of Dr. Akim Baba Ahmed and the Northern Elders Forum that perhaps we're going to end up running in circles because the documents are there already. We have enough that is available that we can hand over to legislators who sincerely and genuinely want to reform the Constitution. By the way, we said earlier that, people who enjoy the current order and profit from it do not like change. Let me also say that those who, because they think they're enjoying the current order, want to frustrate change, invariably become victims. When the change comes, it comes hard.
Absolutely.
And go and ask Nicolae Ceausescu in Romania. All the pressures to change, and he didn't change. He knew how he went. So I plead with our friends in the National Assembly to know that they have a duty to themselves, whatever it is they think they're enjoying presently, to move quickly to change things, to save this country. So in response to you, Dr. Tanko, yes, we will have a quick review of all that is available and send an input to the National Assembly.
Mr. Moderator, question was
okay.
thrown at Professor Ataibu Jega by the lady, how to make INEC truly independent.
Very good, Prof. Thanks so much.
Okay. So let's round up now by turning to first Dr. Muiz Banire, and then close with Professor Jega. Closing thoughts. From Dr. Banire, we'll go to Ms. Magoro, and we end up with Professor Jega. 1 minute, closing thoughts. Is he still there? Let's go to Ms. Magoro.
Okay, my closing comment is that yes, congratulations, and it's gone very well. Women must be included, whether others agree or not. We play a very relevant part in politics and in the governance itself. And our political parties need to come together and actually define what they actually want, what they want to do as parties, and where the platform they actually want to relate in, towards the issue of security. I'm back again to INEC and judiciary. Overall, as Nigerians, we must put our head together to save our democracy if we really believe in democracy. Thank you.
Okay. Who is the other panelist who is there?
Ajia Najatu.
Ajia Najatu, please.
Yes.
Thoughts?
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, in the final analysis, I would want to agree with Professor Hajigas that said that we should get another political party. However, the snag is that most of us, especially the elites of this country, who have benefited from this corruption, actually see crime and criminality through a narrow prism of tribe or religion. Most of them do not even seem to see Nigeria as Nigeria. It's only Nigeria when it suits them. When it doesn't suit them, it's not Nigeria. So until we even begin to change that mindset, otherwise, who cares? I really don't care where a president comes from. I don't care for so long as he is someone that will deliver. However, no matter how good you are, if you are from this part of the country or that part of the country, then you have problems. They always want to narrow it into their tribe so that it is easier for them to rule. And then the second and final thing that I would want to talk about is the question of women and politics. You know, women don't naturally want to take unnecessary risks. We don't want to be thugs. We don't want to indulge in thuggery. We don't want to blow out our money just to be to get political power because we are mothers more than anything else. And however, I would also want to encourage our women to take it out of their psyche that no one will give you power on a platter of gold. You have to go out and sling it out. There's nothing like 30%, whatever. It doesn't exist. It's utopia. So go out and sling it out. It's a question. I know that we are disadvantaged, but no one will give us the advantage just because we say we need the advantage. It doesn't work like this, not in power play. Unless, of course, you can be a token, you can be made a commissioner, a minister, this, that. Well, I say Minister for Women Affairs, no, please give it to the men because they need the women more than we do. Thank you very much.
I agree with you. I think the next Minister for Women Affairs should be a man.
Yeah, I think so too.
No, this seriously, enough of this tokenism. We should take people seriously for what they can contribute and really, truly make progress for our country. I think that I will then go to Professor Jega for a quick last thought on this. And if possible, on some action plan, things we should do. We've said a number of things we should do. And there's work in progress to get them going. But some thoughts from Professor Tahiru Jega.
Thank you very much, moderator.
Going forward.
Since I have just about a minute, let me just I think the first thing is that certainly the electoral legal framework needs remarkable improvement before the 2023 general elections. And the focus should be making INEC even much more independent, and also ensuring that some of the current provisions which allow recklessness in the political parties are also corrected. Because really what happens in the political parties with regards to party primaries and the nomination of candidates and so on, it's very fraudulent and is also very reckless and criminal. So legal amendments that can curtail that recklessness can go a long way in improving, opening the space in political parties and making internal party democracy more substantive. Since 2010, we have not really done substantive electoral reforms. So, and now there is an opportunity. So I will urge all the organizations that we are part of to really focus and push the National Assembly to ensure that there are very good, effective, credible electoral law reforms before the 2023 elections. That's one point. The second point, which I think is very, very important, we should recognize that you cannot build democracy without Democrats. And I think what has happened is that we have allowed militias to populate and run political parties and expecting that they can help us build democracy. And that's why we are seeing all these crises in political parties with internal party democracy, which then affects general democratic development. So Democrats cannot afford to stay outside and watch authoritarian militias destroying political parties. So the third point, therefore, is that if there is anyone amongst us, and there are about 98 people, I think, participating here, really, who are Democrats and who think they are still non-aligned and do not belong to any political party, I think this is the time really to take to join a political party and to help struggle within these parties to build democracy from within. I think this is a very, very important point to make. So the Ways Committee has made many recommendations which could strengthen the independence of INEC and that can also improve internal party democracy, including the unbundling of INEC and making it more effective in focusing on the conduct and the management. I think this process of electoral legal amendment can also go back to the Ways report, and there are a lot of things that can be lifted which can help in strengthening the independence and autonomy of INEC. But I think we cannot underestimate what role, and that's the last point I want to make, what role women and what role our youth can make. Generally, in strengthening clean politics in our country and also in helping to build democracy within political parties. So we need to do everything possible to engage the youth, to engage women groups, to create platforms where a minimum agenda can be agreed upon that all can pursue in terms of how to improve internal party democracy and how to generally help bring integrity to the elections and also the political process in our country. I think this is really an important matter that we must take with the seriousness that it deserves. Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much. First, I'd like to say that there are many more than the number of people seen on the screen. In several places around the country, there are groups like this. If you can see those around here. So we have gathered in clusters to engage in this conversation. We have a screen projecting you, for example, as you are speaking, and the group here is listening. And part of the idea is the fundamental tenet of the NCF idea that we have cells, and that everywhere around people should gather groups around, friends, cells of this nature, between 12, 20 people, to have weekly conversations about what to do with our country and how to take things forward. And to therefore build this into a true movement for change. Because if we don't change our country, I don't know what will become of it, the way we are traveling. And I believe that building some clear ideas about what pulls the group together is a critical part of this process. You've talked about the youth and the women. I think it is not a laughing matter at all about women, because that political parties, abusive as they are, run is because of what they use women to do. It's the women who go for dancing, it's the women they deploy to do all kinds of things, that the ones who line up for hours to get just 200 naira to vote. So women need to play a very important role in organizing themselves and educating themselves, not to be used in the way they have been used in the past. If they say, no, enough is enough, then change, true change can come. We have also been building networks of lawyers, networks of think tanks intelligentsia. The universities have been left out of thinking in our country. Universities must return. When we were young, the professors at ABU dominated the new Nigerian newspapers. The ones in Ibadan, Ife, Lagos, the newspapers of the time in Lagos, and so on and so forth. We must return to the intelligentsia, awakening to its duty, its responsibility to bring the country back. And this is what we're trying to do here with the NCF platform, so that we really can save our country. On that note, I think I want to remind everybody again on Friday, where the emphasis is on youth and the role that the youth can play in renewing this land. If you join us at 5 p.m. on Friday, we'll take some resolutions. Some of the action points from today will also be put forward to that group, and we can get to some real work. Thank you all so much for being part of today. Don't just talk about it, do something. Just do it. God bless you all. Goodbye. Good night.
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. Announcement from the Secretariat. We like to thank everybody who have taken time to attend this very historic webinar. For further inquiry about the NCF front, you may wish to contact the website of this movement to become a full member and also to play your role in saving Nigeria. That we all commit. It is quite important that we all commit. I will do it. Hello? Hello?
Go ahead, Chair.
Yeah. It's important that we all commit practically. Professor Jega has told us what to do. Either we pull together to get an existing party and populate it, or we set up our own. It is practical sacrifice that can make this work. It is not by mouthing it. So therefore, it deserves our collective sacrifice. So we also expect that we contact the Secretariat in Abuja. Our Secretariat is at 40, Awada Crescent, off TOS Benson, off Okonjo-Iweala, Utakudi. And then you will log on to our website to become a full member. We have pasted on the wall the numbers to contact in the Secretariat if you wish to get any information. So we'd like to thank you. It's a real battle to rescue Nigeria, and it is a task for all that must be done. Thank you very much. God bless. Organizing Committee Chair.
Chair, there's really not much more to say. Thank you, everyone. And like we say, join NC Front. The time is now. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And all the committee members, awesome. You guys did marvelous, and I'm sure you're all very proud of yourselves because it has turned out the way that we didn't even expect. So thank you, every member of the committee. God bless all of you in Jesus' name. Oh, amen.
So the link for the Friday meeting will be sent out tomorrow morning. So please expect to have the link for the Zoom meeting of Friday. Thanks. God bless.
Thank
you all. Thank you, Professor Jega.
Thank you, Professor Jega.
Thank you, Professor Jega. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot, everybody. So nice seeing you.
Thank you, Professor
Utomi. Hey, Professor Jega. I appreciate your coming on.
Thank you.
Right, Honorable Janet. How are you?
All have
I'm fine.
all the
Hi,
best.
Jana Jatu.
Please come on board. Come on board.
Hi, Jana Jatu.
Thank you.
Hi, Jana
Yes.
Jatu.
See you.
Nice to see you again.
How are you?
Brother
very well,
Tom
thank you.
Beke Ekanem. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
I want you on NCF, please. Come on board.
Where is Jana Jatu?
We must win this battle.
Hi, Jana Jatu.
My great brother Tom Beke Ekanem.
Lining up to collect you.
Plus
We must
TV Africa, you guys have been awesome. Plus TV Africa, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Good evening, Professor Jega.
Yes. Dr. Tanko Kanalavia, how are you?
I'm fine, sir.
Good to see you. Well done. Well done.
Thank you, sir. Nice seeing you too.
Good to see you.
Hi, Jana Jatu.
Hello, madam. How are you?
Jana Jatu, so happy to see you. Thank you.
Yes.
Dr.
time.
I hail
Thank you.
I see you. I see you.
I will be calling you in 5 minutes.
Okay, no problem, sir. It's
Thank
just
you, Professor Banire.
Mommy Josephine, how are you?
Professor
very
Banire,
well,
thank you
thank
for
you.
coming.
Nice seeing you again.
Nice seeing you too.
Okay.
So with this array of Nigerians, we have no excuse not to move forward. We just have that change that we are.
Yeah, love you.
Alhamdulillah. Now? I'm so sorry.
Madam, I'll make a text, Anjima.
Okay, inshallah. Yes, inshallah. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Chairman, organizing committee.
Great uncle.
Hello.
I should thank you. God bless you.
No problem.
I like you, uncle. Well done.
Thank you, ma.
Well done. Well done.
Thank you, ma. Thank you, ma.
Thank you.
How are you?
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
The great Inyom, you have to lead. You have to lead us this time.
Thank you very much.
Is that what?
We have to lead. You have to stand up and lead.
We have younger and stronger ones. Let them lead. We'll be following behind. I'm handing over to the younger ones, I beg.
The great Dr. Ekpedeme.
We've been saying that the future belongs to them. This is the future. Let them take over. I will follow you. I'm behind you.
Beg, we are not all. We will still celebrate you. We will still celebrate you. Please, you are not all.
I will be always there for you.
But I know. We need you
it.
up to now, actively. You. Information of structures, that's what is killing us. Formation of structures in the local government state, whereby they will give ex-official treasurer or women leader. What is all this about? And the biggest problem we are having is INEC. They are the people that are manipulating. That's the only problem we are having in Nigeria.
INEC?
Yeah.
I don't think it's INEC. It's your political party. You people should go and fight your national chairman.
INEC is a major problem.
Fight them. Scatter the party.
If INEC is truly independent, a lot of problems will be solved.
It has nothing to do with INEC.
We have problems at the party level, and we have problems with at the INEC as an institution.
It starts from the party level. Yes. So if we want to change anything, we must change the selection process in the political parties.
Yes, very important.
What they are doing there, they just sit there. They think they want to make money. They are collecting money from the highest bidder to take
exactly.
And then our people need a reorientation.
Let us scatter all the parties.
Reorientation at the grass level.
Form a new party.
Not a reorientation.
Form a new party. Scatter all of them.
Yes, definitely a new party is coming on.
Yes.
That is what we're getting at.
let's get a new party. And
it must be a new party. It must be a new party with credible people.
I don't think a new party is the problem.
To be able to convince Nigerians.
I meet you there in
A
the
new party is not the
party
problem.
with people,
please send
with
me
people
your
of like minds. When you have strange bedfellows, then that's where you start having problems. So if you have a party with like minds and like ideology, then we can move forward. But there's no way we can continue the way we are going.
Hey, Dr. Dawla. How you doing?
What are we talking about?
I'm good, thank you.
Good.
Nice to talk to you.
Nice to talk to you, though. I've been longing to have this opportunity to talk to you. You know.
Bye, Che. Unless you are sending me data. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Unless you are sending me data, I can stay on.
I have a place in Nigeria that I've been trying to see how we can at least grow it or partner with what you're doing, because those are the things that are actually lacking in Nigeria. We need things like that in Nigeria, you know. And unfortunately, you know, when things come like this, the best thing to first of all create awareness, let people know about it, you know. And that's what.
How are you? You are the new talks on the. You are the new sheriff, so you push. We will follow you people behind. Good evening, man. Well done, man. Hi, Senator. Well done, man.
Are you in Benin? How is Edo? How is the election?
My DG, Mr. Kuni. Well done, oh.
Yeah.
God bless you for all this effort.
Thank you very much.
We shall get there by God's grace.
Amen. Thanks very much, all. A very wonderful evening, very resourceful, very productive one, and this will take us forward. So we like to say goodbye now. Want to say goodbye to all. Thank you. Thank you.
Bye. Bye. Bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye. Bye. Yeah, bye. 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 Yeah, bye. Thank you very much. Bye-bye. Bye. Thanks. Bye. Bye-bye. Yeah. Bye. Yeah, closing this.
Oh. Okay. Hello, are you the one patient sent to pick me? Patience. Okay. Oh,
because that place, I really don't want to go there.
Oh, Jesus.
Serious traffic is there.
So what will I do now, my dear? What will I do?
I told her already now. I said,
yeah.
She knows. I know, but no any Uber or boat.
Yeah.
At the end of it, how much will they give you?
Sorry, sir. Because of God, you
now
help
you will
me.
see it now. We are going now.
Sorry, sir.
She knows.
Yeah, sorry. Sorry. Please, DG, can you call me so that we talk? Please. Hello? DG? I wasn't at the beginning and I need to get the right contact. Please, can you text it to my phone or you call me so that I can have more information about your office, please? I hope you hear me, DG. DG?
Yes, I have put the number there for you.
Okay,
So
you
call.
are putting it for me. Okay.
Yes, just check on the wall.
I will check. Thank you so much.
Check on the wall.
Office tomorrow.
You can see the number now.
I will call you. Thank you so much for the effort made.
Yes. So I'm typing the number so you can copy the number now.
Okay. But do you remember my name?
Leah, I guess.
Yes, Leah Solomon Lucy.
Okay.
Leah, not that Leah they kidnap, the bandit kidnap.
Oh,
Thank
right.
you. Thank you.
So just take the number from the wall and then.
From the wall, okay.
From the chat room. 08.
Sorry?
You can take it 081.
081.
88.
88.
45.
45.
15.
45 again.
151.
Okay. 15.
Then 11.
Thank you so much. 11. Thank you. I got it.
Okay.
Thank you so much, DG. I appreciate it. Bye.
Alpha. Anytime.